Hi guys, welcome to I'd say it's a very special episode. I guess it is a pretty special episode of the Top Two Tiers podcast. I'm Alfred Yang with me, my intrepid co-host Tom.
Hello.
And today we'll be well, we have crowdsourced a fair bit for this particular episode. But we'll get to that in a sec. Before we go on, how have things been on your side?
The same as usual, honestly. Nothing much has been
Yeah.
happening for me.
That's fair enough. I went to my first locals in quite some time yesterday, but because a gaggle of Yu-Gi-Oh players went overtime by a lot, I decided not to play locals and just to play casuals, in which I was uh, reminded of how badly you can lose to players are much luckier than you, even when math should be in your favor. But them's the breaks. That's Weiss. That's the game we play. I also have not had much else new on my side, but that's fine because we should probably just get on with this one. It's a very extensive episode, and it might even be multiple episodes, honestly. So, as you might be able to see on the screen, or for those listening on Spotify, you won't be able to see, but we'll read things out for you. Flavortown is the probable title for this episode, and that's because we'll be exploring something that is in most card games, but certainly isn't as prominent in most card games as it is in Weiss Schwarz. While a lot of other card games do draw inspiration from various pop culture things and genres of content, like Magic and its Innistrad was a horror themed set, Strixhaven was a Harry Potter themed set, and Ixalan was a Conquistadors themed set. Well, Weiss Schwarz is literally merchandise in that we pull directly from existing IPs, intellectual properties, and we make cards of them. So the flavor in Weiss tends to be significantly stronger than other card games, even though the constraints of design are a little bit smaller than some card games. I think there's a lot of stuff that you can interpret in a certain way, and we're going to go through, well, a lot of them. We have 40 something examples, and I'm sure there are plenty more. We will preface by saying that if your example that we crowdsourced, and thank you to everyone who replied to the comments and posts that we made on the various socials. If your one didn't come up, that's not because it wasn't great. It's just because we only have so much time, and we do need to, unfortunately, cover only certain ones at this point in time. If this episode is well received, maybe we'll do another one. Who knows? But at this point in time, we are going to cover a few ones that we've chosen to be pretty representative of some of the good flavor in Weiss. There's plenty more. Like I know there's a lot. Just off the top of my head, there's plenty that we're not doing. Like there's some Bang Dream stuff. There's some King of Fighters stuff. There's just a lot. Before we do get started, we'll talk about a few general ones. Do you have that post up, Tom?
Um oh,
I'll post
we'll
it.
just
Yes, I'll get it for you. There's a few general ones that we'll talk about first. Just so we don't. We're not going to talk in specifics about all of these in the later part of the episode, but these are all really flavorful as well. Do you want to get started on some of the general ones, Tom?
sure. Give me 1 second.
That's all right. So I've pulled them up first. I'll take the first one, I guess. So the first one we'll talk about is the idea of a climax combo in general, and this kind of ties into the overall flavor of Weiss as a game. It's kind of been lost to time, and now it's mostly just the anime card game that people know about. But the original flavor of Weiss was like two pieces of media attempting to kind of compete for like attention and ratings, basically. That's why we have terms like climax. That's why we have the stage, clock, and all of that. Uh, so when everything's over, when you get to level four, that's when the show is has finished airing, or when your visual novel's finished, or when your route is finished. All that. Basically, when that happens, one person has lost out and the other person wins in, ratings or attention or whatever. So that's like kind of the general theming of Weiss that we don't really talk about because it's not that important. but it does give a kind of an idea of why terms are named the way they are. So, Tom, do you want to talk briefly about climax combos?
Sure. I mean, climax combos. Let me see if I can bring up an example real quick. Because there are some. Let's see. Yeah. So we can talk about.
Yeah, Mother's Rosario works
I'll
well.
use Mother's Rosario as an example. So in the card game, they typically choose. I think the general idea is that climaxes represent key moments, exciting moments in the properties that they're made for. So, like for example, for Mother's Rosario, there are some very sick moments where Asuna uses Yuki's super special, awesome secret technique, Mother's Rosario, which is an 11. Uh, uh, well, and that's what the
Hit
climax
combo,
is.
right?
That's what the climax is called, Mother's Rosario, and it's like a 11 hit combo. Yeah, and every single version of there are several Asuna cards that use Mother's Rosario as a climax combo. All of them, or both of them, have something to do something with like 11 cards off the top of your deck. Um,
Yeah, so an example would be the one on screen, but for our listeners, it reads, when this attacks, if Mother's Rosario is in your climax zone and you have a certain card in memory, a card with Yuki on it, you may pay cost. If you do, mill 11 cards and then deal 1 damage to your opponent for every climax card milled that way. So it's just like, 11 hits. And sometimes the opponent parries some, but every climax you hit is a hit that goes through. And that's kind of like mimicking the 11 hit combo in Mother's Rosario. And it's good that they did that with the card, because the original Mother's Rosario combo was like just a level 1 search combo, not particularly inspiring or evocative. But here, when Asuna inherits the technique, it comes out as the finisher, which is kind of what it's supposed to be, because Yuki's like a legendary swordsman who's better than Kirito and stuff. So this is her legendary technique and everything. And climax combos kind of represent that. They don't just represent super moves, but they also represent big reveal moments in series or very emotional moments. A lot of climaxes, for example, we can talk about the Star Wars ones. Like think about the Star Wars climax scenes. You've got the medal ceremony after destroying the Death Star. You've got Luke, I am your father. Really impactful, evocative moments are depicted on climax combos. The next thing we'll talk about in terms of general flavor is like specific character support. So in the series and properties that are talked about, you'll often have specific characters supporting other characters. There are myriad examples. Like any card that bonds to another card usually represents like a character in the show that has a linkage up with the other character. I don't think we need an example. I think it's pretty simple to find, just to think of one. Like every single set surely has one, right? Like in
yeah,
Monogatari, there's an Araragi which bonds to his sisters. In fact, I think there's actually an Araragi that bonds to half the girls in the cast, because that represents him in each arc.
yes,
Then you've got characters that specifically support other characters. The one on screen, we've got a ReZero combo between Priscilla, one of the candidates for royal election, and her butler, or her her
knight.
bodyguard. Yeah.
Yeah,
And if her knight is in play, then that particular Priscilla gets a significant boost in power. And we'll talk a little bit more about this card when we come to it later. But basically, bond and specific naming of characters represents some sort of connection in the game. So that's pretty fair. Next, recollection. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but basically, dead characters go to memory, and those characters, if they're in memory, they will do something impactful. We already talked about one, the Asuna and Yuki. There is a Yuki card which needs to be in memory for Asuna to have the 11-hit combo, because Yuki does not pass on the Mother's Rosario technique until she is, well, dead. Sorry, guys, that's a spoiler, but it's SAO. I mean, come on, who cares? There are plenty of examples in lots of other series. D-Side comes to mind if you watched our earlier video on that, and plenty of key series as well, which I'm not going to talk about because there are too many spoilers for the ending of those series, and To be frank, unlike Sword Art Online, I actually like Key series, so I don't want to spoil anyone's enjoyment of that. Then we have meme traits. So, can you think of examples of those, Tom? I'm kind of
Mm, Ash.
uh yes. Well, Ash
He's
just
not
kind of
a.
steals traits from everybody. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you've got there's a Kimono Friends card that gives everyone tea. There's a card in Index that gives everyone a wet hand towel.
There are some Azza
Uh,
cards that give everybody love.
yes, and there's a Flon card that does that as well. And I believe there's a card that gives you coffee in Rewrite. Basically, this just represents something in the show or the franchise usually, which is cute little bits of flavor here and there. Alternate names while on field. These are purely flavor ones as well. I think most of them are actually spoilers. There was a good one talked about on the Global Post. Who was it? Shoutouts to I think it was Benjamin Bollett, who talked about a specific Frank's card that has the name of another character because at one point in the series the pilots swapped. But then a lot of other alternate name cards are just straight up spoilers. Like, uh, can I talk about Avenger? Is that allowed? I guess
Sure.
it's yeah. I mean, not many
Uh,
people will have played Fate Hollow Ataraxia, but in that game, you play as presumably Emiya Shiro, the protagonist of Fate Stay Night. In this is like a sequel visual novel, but it's revealed later that you're not actually Emiya Shiro. You are a servant called Avenger, and I'm not going to talk about exactly who that is because that's an actual spoiler. But basically, because Avenger is masquerading as Shiro, he has the name Emiya Shiro while on stage, and there are a few cards in the first Fate Stay Night set that check for that name specifically. Do
I
you?
guess
Yep.
another example I just thought up of was Aobuta. There's like a character that like shapeshifts, right? Or like disguises herself.
Uh, yes.
She like
It's an imposter
uh
syndrome thing.
I think oh, interesting. Okay. I think she does have a card where she's disguised another character, but she gets her name
Oh,
on stage or something
uh,
like that.
there's a really easy one. What about the Quince cards that all have the Yotsuba name?
Oh, sure. Okay, that's a
Yeah,
better example actually. Yeah.
yeah.
So the Quince,
Just like
yeah, okay, there we go.
because they all put the ribbon on and they're supposedly impossible to differentiate at that point. So,
Yes.
do you want to talk about some of the uses of markers? I guess.
Markers? Sure. I mean, markers um there wasn't a lot of I think the most common flavor for markers is just like equipment, so like stuff that characters put on or you know, enter. So like what's an example? Kill Kill has some
Yeah,
cards
Kill
that
the Kill.
marker clothes, like they marker their like super clothes for various effects. What else? Uh there are some mecha properties in Vice, like Gurren Lagann. I can just go
Yes,
to the
you've
Gurren
got
Lagann
the
one right now.
you've got specific
Uh
cards that turn into the Gurren Lagann. That doesn't really cover that actually. That's a bit different. We can talk about that later. But there is a Gurren Lagann card in the trial deck, which is it combines Gurren and Lagann, two different mechs, to make the level 3 Gurren Lagann, which is, well, Gurren Lagann. Another
uh
example is the trance mechanic in Franks, where you get a couple of
yeah.
characters put together to make their mech. And another example from Fujimi is the Full Metal Panic card of Sosuke, where he goes from being a 1/0 card that's just, kind of not very useful into a mech, which is like a 2/1 11K, very scary mech. And like uh that's uh that's a thing that was done a lot more in Chaos as well, but I think if we're talking about WS, those are some examples.
Yep.
The other marker thing that I think I want to mention briefly is the Japanese only set Lost Decade, where they tried to use markers as strict equipment. It didn't pan out well because the set just was not very good, but that was something which was kind of cool. We'll talk about a couple more before we get onto actual cool examples, and we can probably take it in turns doing those examples as we go. Some loner characters, like the 004Ks or whatever, mirror the characters' personalities. Examples would include Senjo Gahara from Bakemonogatari or the Yumiko from Grisaya. And runners often represent characters that are trying to run away or who are high mobility or who can teleport, like Kuroko from Railgun or Azusa from Idolmaster because she frequently just gets lost a lot. And we'll talk about Attack on Titan when we get to that, but that's another one. So without much further ado, let's get into some specific examples. A lot of these were contributed by community members, and we won't be doxing anybody or giving specific thanks to anybody, but I hope you all know that you are all really appreciated. Thank you so much for the very quick responses to those posts, and let's get on with the show. Do you want to take the first one?
Yeah, sure. So the first one, these are all in random order, by the way. This is a Persona event that,
It's called Armageddon.
yeah, I think it's a move, right?
Yeah, so what
Yeah.
you do in because it's been a while, but in Persona 3 and also Persona 3 Portable, there are certain skills that you just kind of don't know about unless you know about them. It's kind of weird, but it was early Persona games, like that's what it is. If you combine two specific demons or personas, you can use a skill that deals 9999 damage. And in this case, it is called Armageddon, where you combine I forget who it is. I think it's Hallel and Satan.
That's for
Whatever.
I just looked it up. That's for Fess and Portable, and in the original Persona 3, you combine Lucifer and Satan.
Yeah, because
Pretty metal.
the personas are the same. They change the name between the games. So
Oh, I see.
uh this
Those are
is
the personas in
required.
the card, right?
Yes, they're the
Yeah,
personas on the card. So they are this is required to beat the super boss because the super boss has 20,000 HP. When they drop below 10k HP, they will instantly wipe you. So you need to use this to kill them.
I see.
In Persona 3, the card set, back then, no characters had over 9,000 base power. So Armageddon killed everything on your opponent's side of the field. And that's represented by literally referencing 9999, which is not
Well,
something you'll see anywhere else.
in their front row, but yeah.
Yes, in their front row. So that's a neat bit of flavor. Probably one of the cooler pieces from Persona 3, but there are some others in the Persona series. Do you want to take the next one?
All out attack is the
This
next
one's
one.
funny.
This is a counter.
The card sucks, but
It does suck. But basically in Persona and All Out Attack, battle system is called one more, and so basically you like if you attack your enemy's weaknesses, you get to attack again, and they get knocked down. And if you one more every single one of your enemies, you get an opportunity to do an all out attack, which is basically all of your characters wailing on every single enemy all at once for like a
okay.
massive attack at the very end of the battle phase. Or
Let
no,
me
sorry,
let,
right when they're all knocked down, which is what this card
let
is
me
trying to emulate in
yeah.
device mechanics.
Let me bring to everyone's attention how bad this card is. It is a 2/3 counter event. That's right, 3 cost, and it reads all your characters gain 1,000 power. But if all of your opponent's front row characters are rested or, knocked down, your characters instead gain plus 3,000 power for the turn. So this isn't actually amazingly flavorful outside of superficial stuff, because if your opponent's characters are all rested, that implies they just attacked and killed your characters, right? Um, and if you use this as a counter, then that's probably not great because if you notice, it says rested. If your opponent's characters are reversed, you don't get the extra power. So this isn't actually a very good card at all. It is terrible. But the flavor is there, and I think they pulled it off a little bit better with a card that we'll talk about very soon, um, of the all-out attack, basically. So let's go to the next card, which is Joker and Arsene. This card also has an all-out attack flavor. So basically, it's a level 3. It has the ability at the start of your encore step, if every slot in your opponent's front row is either empty or reversed, not rested, reversed, so you've knocked them all down, you can pay a cost. If you do, you do a bunch of damage. I'm not going to go into exactly how, but basically, when you knock out all of your opponent's characters or there's nothing in those slots, all of your opponents are knocked down, that's the time for an all-out attack. And I think if you've played the Persona games, you will probably have done many, many all-out attacks. It is just a big part of the grinding mechanics in that game. And this is cool flavor. All right, what do we got next?
Organicar.
uh, I mean, this one's just kind of cute, right?
Yeah, it's a car that everybody gets into. You just drive it in the game.
Yes.
Um, and that's what
So
this
the
car
flavor's
does.
not, yeah, the flavor's not like incredible outside of the original part of everyone get in the bus, because it's not like you use Morgana in battle to dodge anything or whatever. But the idea of everyone getting into the bus is is pretty funny, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. So what do we have next?
Zero
Oh,
two.
this card. Yeah. Do you want to take this one?
Right. Her lore, or when she's introduced, is a character with some mystique, and some of that is because every person she's partnered with dies.
You want to read the
And
card for our
yeah, sure.
Spotify
Yeah,
listeners?
sorry. The card is number 67 from Darling the Frank set. This is 02. So when it attacks, you can sack one of your other parasite characters on the stage to reveal the top card of your library and add that card if it's on trait, so parasite or Frank's trait.
So you're like
And then
trading one parasite for your next one,
yep.
which is exactly what she does in the show when she's first introduced, which I think is a pretty
Yes.
cool bit of flavor. Oh, I want to take the next one.
Yeah, I think you
This is
do.
a sweet one. So this is Unlimited Blade Works Shiro Emiya. And what he does is when the battle opponent of this is reversed, if you have unlimited blade works in the climax zone, you can pay cost. If you do, choose a character in your waiting room whose level is equal to who you reversed and put it on stage. And then at the end of the turn, or like at the start of the encore step, if that character's on stage, it goes to memory. So basically, this is Shiro creating fakes to attack with. Like, while it's not perfect flavor, the idea of creating subpar fakes that do just as much as the originals is pretty much the idea of Unlimited Blade Works. So these cards are identical to their originals. So, you know, what the original card would have done, except at the end of the turn, they break or they go to memory. And it is interesting that one of the best targets for Emiya Shiro's combo is an archer who will go to memory after he's used. And this scene itself is from the scene in Unlimited Blade Works after Archer has kind of imparted his wisdom or whatever and failed to kill Shiro and gone away. So that's another little flavorful thing there. It's this combo is almost there. It's almost competitively playable, but having to reverse is just a bit much. But it is a really cool combo, and it is definitely not the last card from Fate we'll be talking about. Do you want to take the next couple?
Sure. There's another fake card. What heading into spoilers,
Uh,
I guess. But if you haven't,
I mean, yeah,
it's an
like the
old
whole set
VN,
spoils Heaven's Feel.
whatever. Like Heaven's Feel itself is a huge, gigantic spoiler. So wait a second. So everybody has been warned. We are heading into spoilers. I think we mentioned it before, but yeah, it's definitely spoiler season. So this Sakura, when she's Dark Sakura, she like starts eating servants, and that's what
Yeah,
this card does. It sends servants on your board to stock, which I
yeah.
find very
So
funny.
the idea of this is that again, spoilers, you have been warned. Sakura is a basically a vessel for the Holy Grail in this instance, and in Fate, the Holy Grail eats servants to convert energy. And that's what Sakura's done. She's become a sentient Holy Grail. She starts to consume servants, which is even more flavorful in the next card, I think.
Yes.
Yes. So at the beginning of your opponent's climax phase, if this Sakura has 7 or more markers under it, you get to pull out a superpowered level 2 Sakura uh, that that also debuffs the opponent's board. So that is a reference to how when Sakura gets 7 servants worth of energy, the Holy Grail kind of opens up and does the thing it does. The way that she gets the markers isn't too important. There's another thing that this does, where you can kill a card called Shinji Enraged with this Sakura. What's that supposed to represent?
Uh,
Do you
mm,
actually know?
yes. Wait. You don't know? Okay,
I know.
this guy's messing with me. All right. There is a scene where Shinji does a very bad thing. A TM, very bad thing to Sakura, and then she kills him. Spoilers.
Yeah,
She
that's
kills
about
him.
it.
Straight up kills him. And that is like one of that. It's in the VN. I don't know if the show has this kind of pacing, but in the VN, the moment when Shinji dies is like a huge turning point, moment of no return, point of no return for
Also
Sakura.
oddly sexualized, and I think it's movies, not show, isn't it?
Oh, right, yeah, they're movies. I have no idea if the
Well,
movies kept that kind of vibe, but in the VN, it's like the
she
final.
basically goes like off the edge. That's what
Yeah, she goes
happens.
insane. Yeah, after she kills Shinji, basically.
And that kind of like represents her going into from the green cards to the red cards for the most part.
That is that is very that's very thematically symbolic. Gotta say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Fate has heaps of other good flavor cards we haven't talked about. There's a bunch of good berserkers, there's a bunch of good archers and shiros and Gilgamesh, and there's a couple really good lancers as well. But if we talked about Fate, we'd be here all day. So let's move on to a slightly more light-hearted series, shall we?
Yeah. All
Uh,
right. So this is a Coco.
Hololive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is from
you take
Hololive.
it.
Coco from Hololive. Um, on first glance at this card, you might think to yourself, "Where is the flavor? This is just a finisher that does a bunch of things." However, uh, I mean, I don't think he minds being called like. Well,
We can
there's a
shout him
the
out. It's
person.
pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So Chad, who does card of the day posts for Global, who is a big Hololive fan, um, brought when we made a post on Global asking for submissions, right? He submitted this card with the interpretation that the stock costs you pay uh for this
It's a super
card.
chat.
They're like donations to the streamer, like super chats on YouTube. You can spend money to have a message be read out by the streamer, basically. And the stock costs being paid here, you can pay them over and over and over again, up to 5 times. Uh, the bit of flavor here is that apparently the spending limit on YouTube is $500 per super chat.
And if you
And
take
this is
each
represented here. Yeah, you pay one
each
stock $100 every time, up to 5 times. So you pay up to $500 to get the streamer to
I
do
think
something
that's
cool
just
for you.
I think that's sick. Like,
It is pretty funny. Yeah.
I really hope that was the intention behind it because that's pretty sick. It should be mentioned that at the time of the set's release, Coco was apparently one of the highest earners in the whole live well, whatever you call it, the lineup, I suppose. Things have changed since then for various reasons, but I guess that's why they gave her the super chat card, hey?
Mm-hmm. I
All right.
yes.
So,
I think she was the top girl. I think she was number one.
mm, all
I
right.
think she was number one on YouTube. Actually, I think it was number one on YouTube, but could
I
be wrong.
believe it. You have played with this card much more than I have, right?
Sure. Yeah, we have some AOT cards here. Uh, we mentioned AOT briefly when it comes to stuff like runners moving around. These cards are called. I don't know how they're translated officially, but I'm just gonna call them
Omnidirectional
omnidirectional
movement gear.
mobility gear. It's like
3D movement gear.
It's like
Yeah.
anti-Titan equipment or whatever. Omnidirectional or 3D movement gear. Um, basically, these are counters, event counters that you use to like move your characters in battle away from the battle. Um, and then they have some miscellaneous effects. The 1-1 event is actually I think more flavorful, but
I think so, yeah. That's the one where so the one's the one where you bounce to
You bounce it.
hand.
Yeah, you bounce it, and then you save one of your characters in the waiting room.
Mm.
Like you get to.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
really like the other one as well because it's like the errand that you save with this combo, or like the card you save with this combo, inevitably attacks again, and that kind of mirrors the fights in Attack on Titan, where when you use the gear to escape the Titan, Levi and Mikasa at the very least are gearing up to attack again, which is a pretty
Yes.
sick way to both talk about the gameplay and the flavor of the card. One of the strongest cards we've shown so far. Most of the flavor cards are pretty weak, but this one's pretty sick. So that's the AOT card. This next one, all right. So this is Reinhardt from ReZero. I am not going to read the entire card.
Are
But
you sure?
basically, it says
Hmm.
if Reinhardt is the only character on the stage, he is a one-man army. He's like 20k hexproof. Your opponent can't back up against this. Memory kick deals 1 damage when he reverses things. Basically, he's like a god character.
Also, as
And there are
bodyguard.
Yes, he has
Yeah.
bodyguard as well. So there are a few of these in Weiss. Reinhardt we used because it's a more modern rendition, but there are scenes in ReZero where Reinhardt like single-handedly, effortlessly defeats people that are incredibly terrifying, incredibly powerful, or like entire armies worth of people that are very, very dangerous. And Reinhardt is the overpowered one-man army. Again, there are a few cards that are a bit like this, but this one is the one that I think we've chosen because it's not only the most competitively viable one we've seen, but also certainly one of the most text-laden ones. Hey,
Yeah.
like what can you say? This guy's just
Text
overpowered.
box is half the
Uh,
card.
yes, he's a one-man army, and when this was revealed, uh, who was doing card the day at the time? Was it me and Randall doing like kind of a?
Uh,
I think we were jostling for it
I
because
don't remember.
I specifically remember looking at the card and thinking, I don't want to translate this. But basically, it's all the abilities. Uh, in other ReZero news, look, this is just not my cup of tea. You can talk about this one if you'd like.
Right, right. She's a very minor character, I think. I'm pretty sure. But basically, uh, the crux of the flavor here is the second effect on the Priscilla itself. So, which is the character opposite this card gains the following ability. If the level of the character opposite this is higher than the level of this can't front attack. So basically, if Priscilla's level is higher than the character that's across from her, that character cannot front attack. Uh, and her knight gives her a level. So basically, it's like, she's like a step on me character. You cannot touch her, etc. Like she's like Ojo, rich, spoiled, you know, above you, that kind of vibe. And her knight, makes sure the riffraff can't touch her. Is part of the flavor here too. So shout out to Christian, by the way. He loves this character. Uh, for a variety of reasons, but yeah. I believe
Now,
there's a scene where she asks Subaru to like kiss her feet or something, but
sounds about
I
right
wouldn't. I'm not exactly an expert on this subject matter
on,
either.
on
I
either
just watched the
ReZero
show.
or the subject of kissing feet.
Yeah, cool flavor.
It is cool, and it's I think it was actually slated to be almost playable because of how oppressive it can be. But I
Before
feel like it's only
standby.
good.
Before standby.
Yeah, it's only good for like a couple turns of the game. We did already talk about Mother's Rosario. We can jump straight to Link Strike, right?
Yep.
So I don't actually know where this happened or where it's from.
It's like a
Do you?
mechanic of the game they play. In ordinal scale. This is from ordinal scale. It's a mechanic of the AR game they play. Where you can like link strike or chain attack or what have you with another player. You like do one attack and then your partner comes in and does like a combination attack, like a chain. That's like the mechanic of that's like the in universe game mechanic. of the AR game they play, and that you can see the AR thingy on their ear, on Kirito's ear, right there. But yeah, that's basically the Climax combo. The Kirito attacks. Uh, or sorry, when your other character attacks,
Mm.
you get to pay the cost and get one of the goon squad pictured below, to attack or to come in and into the yeah. Sorry, yeah, you get one of the goon squad to come in to replace Kirito to attack again. Essentially, is what's happening here, which is what happens
Yes.
in the
So it's like
happens
a
in the movie.
it's a tag out mechanic, and I think it was also like they tried to expand upon it more in the original Aincrad. Is that the name of the first Sword Art Online place?
Yes,
There was like a mechanic where you kind of tag in and out, and that's the character that
switch or
gets
something.
most of the the switch thing. That's where the character who pulls the most aggro changes. So if you play MMOs, you might know that tanks draw aggro. This is just kind of SAO's version of it, I guess.
Yes.
So it is neat. It's also a very flexible mechanic. I think some people try to experiment a little with this because the Link Strike cards are not bad, but I do see a couple cards there that I don't think have ever been sleeved in a competitive deck.
Yeah,
All right, let's move on to the next one, which is a very
Darth Vader,
straightforward one.
uh,
So if you haven't seen Star Wars, I will explain very briefly.
it's Space Bender.
This pretty much. There's a thing called the Force, which allows you to manipulate the environment around you and influence others. And this is portrayed in Weiss with the keyword ability called, very appropriately, Force, which allows you to move opponents' characters back and forth. Now, if you've seen the movies or if you've played the video games, even like the original Battlefront 2 or any of the games that have force push and pull, this is literally just force push and pull. You pull a character from the back row up and push away a character in the front row, and you get to choose who you punch in the face. And there's a few characters that do this. Darth Vader is one of the most prominent ones because he has a climax combo. He's a double R. He is, he's freaking Darth Vader. What do you need me to say? And of course, he's a phenomenally powerful Force user, so of course he gets the Force ability. Other characters who have Force abilities would be like Luke and Obi-Wan, all very prodigious Force users, basically.
Yep. And they kind of
So
scale. There's like different levels of the Force keyword, or
yes,
I think this one. I think this one is the best one, if I recall correctly. This one is the one
yes.
the most control over your opponent's cards, which is appropriate for the
It's also
character.
one of the cheaper ones. It does scale up a
Yes.
bit with the level of the card in the game, but also Darth Vader is like, I mean, Anakin Skywalker was. Sorry, Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader. If you got spoiled on Star Wars from what I just said, I apologize. But Anakin being the most like prodigious Force user ever, effectively, like more than anyone else, is represented well here by having the strongest Force ability, not requiring empty spaces and having a fairly cheap cost. Can't believe I have to say spoiler warning for Star Wars. Ugh. All right. Next one. Oh, Tsukihi. Uh, so Tsukihi is both good and bad flavor, I'd say. So Tsukihi is just a 3/3 with 10k power and 3 soul. So she's not particularly threatening by the standards of level 3s, but it reads, up to once per turn, when this card is reversed in battle, rest this. The thing that they're going for is the Phoenix Resurrection ability. So the idea here is that in the Bakemonogatari series, and this is a spoiler for Nisemonogatari, but whatever, uh, Koyomi Araragi's little sister, Tsukihi Araragi, is actually a oddity known as the Dying Phoenix or Dying Bird, which basically reincarnates itself and is unkillable. That's the long and short of it. There's a shocking scene where like she dies, but then very shortly afterwards she is not dead. She's just unkillable, basically. So unless you kick her to clock or remove her to stock or whatever, she will not die to being killed. As She is the exception to the Emi Ashura rule of things dying when they are killed. There's not too much else to say about that. I don't know why she's 3 soul. I know it's for balancing purposes, but like she didn't have any immense offensive power from being like the dead phoenix or whatever. It's whatever. Do you want to take the next one?
Sure. These are both Maui's. In the show, also from Monogatari. So in the show, Mayui is an oddity herself that gets lost and or gets people lost. So these are two level zeros that kind of reflect that flavor. The first one is from the first Monogatari set, Bakemonogatari, which is the first effect. If when this level 0, which is a 4K, is played on the board, if she reveals a climax as the top card of your deck, she goes back into your deck. She gets lost. And the second one is from Monogatari second season, the second season set, where she makes so your opponent's character get lost. They lose their way and they can't attack her, which is also pretty funny.
And if she doesn't make the opponent get lost, she gets lost.
Yes.
So there's some cool stuff there. Yeah,
Almost
these
playable
cards weren't
cards too.
particularly good. They were almost playable. I played the 4K before. It's not good when you reveal a climax. It's very bad, in fact. All right, next card. Oh,
This is all you.
I have to take this one. So I love Gurren Lagann. It's one of my favorite anime. I day zero maxed it in Japanese. It's a 6 set. This is a huge spoiler for Gurren Lagann, despite the card literally being the title of the show, Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. So in the climactic scene, you
Is
have
one of the best title drops ever.
Yes, it's pretty good.
Ever. It's so sick.
So throughout the end climax of the film, the Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann is the super dimensional mech that the main characters are using to fight the big bad Uber boss. And at the climax of that battle, where they're in a power struggle, what happens is the Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann opens up, and the slightly smaller mech inside jumps out and tries to charge at the opponent. And when that fails, the smaller mech, the Arc Gurren Lagann, jumps out and attacks the opponent. When that fails, the Gurren Lagann, the original one, comes and manages to shock the opponent into submission by withstanding power. And then at the very end, the head of the Gurren Lagann, whose name is Lagann, detaches and attacks into the enemy boss, which is just an amazing climactic scene. This is an enormous spoiler. Gurren Lagann's an amazing series if you like shonen feel-good stuff, and I would recommend it. But we'll talk about the card now. So what this card does is when you play it from hand to stage, you choose up to 4 cards in your waiting room, put them face up under this as markers. So we touched on markers earlier, but this is just what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to put the Super Galaxy Gurren Lagann, the Arc Gurren Lagann, and Lagann under this card as markers. Then when you play the climax, you attack with Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, and then you use the Separate or the Sunder ability, at which point you flip over the top marker, revealing the Super Galaxy Gurren Lagann, which attacks. Then, if your opponent's still not dead, you flip over the Arc Gurren Lagann and attack. If your opponent's still not dead, you flip over Gurren Lagann and attack. And then if they're still not dead, you get to attack with Lagann, who, by the way, gets an extra soul.
Or Shimon.
It's like...
That's just like flavor compromise, but
yes. It's not flavor compromise, because remember, at the very end of the original series, it's Lagann who kills the bad guy. But in the movie, Shimon is the one who punches the anti-spiral in the end.
I thought he comes out of Lagann though at the very end in the movie.
Nah, he yells Lagann impact. There's a hole in the anti-spiral at the end. Is it really a spoiler to say the good guys win? I don't think so. But long story short, this is like one of the single best flavor wins in Weiss, representing all 5 components of the Uber mech, and I think that even though the Gurren Lagann set is not good, the fact this combo exists is a massive win and a huge reason why the set deserves to exist. This is just really sick. You should watch Gurren Lagann. I love
I
that
think
show.
I think I missed a card. There's also a card that just
Yeah, there's
conquers everything. Actually,
it's okay. There's another card called Shimon and Nia, which can sack the field to get the climax out. Which is kind of look, honestly, I think it represents the ass pulls that the Gurren Lagann series has. You just kind of pull out bullshit from nowhere, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. Ooh, I want to take the next couple as well. But anyway, this one's
yeah,
sick.
yeah.
This is another iconic series from the Gurren Lagann show. This combo is typically not very good, generally overcosted for an unimpressive effect, but basically at a certain point, the protagonist of the series, or one of the protagonists, Shimon, is really depressed. But then he becomes undepressed. I'm not going to really spoil how, but stuff happens. And then he makes a really big victory speech, which is on the flavor text of the level 3, the CR version of the climax, and then the triple R version of the climax, which is cool in itself. But the cool thing is, I'll just read it. So what it does is, during your turn, you can put a Carmina from your memory face up under this as a marker. And if you do, this card gets a bunch of effects. And they're all good effects. So the flavor here is that Carmina is a level 1 combo which goes to memory. And spoilers for Gurren Lagann, Carmina dies. He goes to memory. Like we said earlier, characters who die go to memory. And as a result, Shimon is depressed because he's, his best friend and everything. But in this scene, Shimon overcomes his depression, and he's some of the words in the speech include "on my back, in my heart, my bro lives on inside me," and you are literally putting Carmina on Shimon's back as a marker, which I think is really cool. This set's really cool. It might suck, but it's awesome. And the next one is pretty similar to the Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann as well, but this is yet another climactic part of the series. And look, the reason Gurren Lagann's good is all the climaxes. This is Kitan. He is one of the other main characters. There is a scene where he goes on a suicide bombing mission, and it initially looks like he fails, but then he breaks out in his little mech, which by all rights should be dead. But at that point, he evolves into superpower mode, and then he finishes off the attack and saves everybody. And that is represented in this particular combo as well. Basically, exactly what I described is what happens with the card. At the end of this card's attack, if you have the climax in the climax zone and damage dealt by this was cancelled, so it failed, you may pay a cost. If you do, choose a King Kitan, which is the little mech in your waiting room, and put it on any slot on stage with the intention of attacking with that. So that's really cool. And yeah, what can I say? I'm gonna drink some water. You can have the next one, which is Accelerator.
Accelerator. So, yeah. So for those not in the know, the lore for Railgun is that there are superpowered beings, humans called espers, in a city. In the city where the series takes place, they range from level 1 to level 5. Um, Accelerator is one of the level 5 espers in the city. He is one of the most powerful characters in the entire series. Specifically for this climax combo, though, there is an attempt. Is it an attempt? An
So
experiment? It's like a
there's an organized experiment where they take cloned versions of another one of the level 5s
to
to
make a
participate in
yeah
combat simulations. Yeah,
to make Accelerator
and
stronger, which is
to
represented
level
by
6.
his literal level in the game, which is actually, I think, Railgun, like the way the levels in Railgun, in the Railgun sets, Index and Railgun sets, are pretty cool. One of the cooler game mechanic flavor
Yes. Because it's literally like a level system in Index and Railgun, where level 5 is the highest, level 0 is the lowest. I don't know if we actually mentioned it. Did we mention it? Not really. But Toma, the main character, is a level 0. So all of his cards, including his level 3s and level 2s, are level 0. So they just lose level on field.
Yep.
But in exchange, they are over spec in other ways. But Accelerator, they're trying to make him into the first level 6. So the Climax combo here is of Accelerator after he has awakened to some newfound power. And when he used the Climax combo, you get a bunch of sisters from your waiting room, put them under him as markers, to demonstrate all the sisters he has killed. And with that, he becomes a level 6 character on the field, which is really cool. Yeah, Accelerator is the next card as well, and we can talk very briefly about his powers. The reason Accelerator is kind of bullshit, overpowered, is because his ability is to control vectors or directions. A lot of the Toaru universe is based on math, so if you can control vectors and control the math, you can mess with a lot of stuff. So this Accelerator reads, when this card is reversed while battling, and keep in mind, the reverse symbol in Weiss is like demonstrated by a little arrow, you may pay a pretty significant cost. If you do, rest this, shown as an arrow facing in a different direction, and then reverse this character's battle opponent, which, again, more arrows, more directions, more vectors. Another thing we should mention is that Accelerator here gains 3 levels on field. If you have other characters, that doesn't really matter. It's just a gameplay balance thing. But he is a level 5 on field, which, again, he's a level 5 in the series. That's pretty cool. And the next card we'll just briefly touch on. This is one of the main characters, Toma. So because he discards a level 0, he doesn't get any minus 0 or whatever. But his ability is called Imagine Breaker, which is like a magic canceling ability. Whatever he uses his right hand to touch, if it was supernatural in any way, whether it was magic or whether it's scientific esper nonsense, it gets completely negated. So if he fights a magic or esper character, this gains plus X power, where X is 2,500 times the level of the character opposite this. The idea is that the more overpowered the opponent, the more reliant they are on their Esper power, and as a result, the worse off they are against Toma. This is very evident against Accelerator specifically, where in the series, when he fights Accelerator, he beats the crap out of him because Accelerator relies completely on his Esper powers, and when he's deprived of them, he is weaker than an average combatant. And funnily enough, if this Toma fights an Accelerator that has gotten to level 6, he in fact has way more power than Accelerator. Accelerator's a 13k, Toma gets to like 17k or something like that. At which point he beats up Accelerator, knocks him down from his level 6 throne, which is exactly what happens in the Railgun and Index series. He stops the experiment by beating the crap out of Accelerator and confuses everyone who is sponsoring the experiment, which is another cool bit of flavor that might have gone under the radar. This next one. You are definitely a bigger Madoka fan than I am. Do you
Oh,
want
the
to take it?
Monica fans out there, yeah. So this is Devil Homura. Spoiler alert: in the movie, she becomes a witch. You, it's a spoiler. I don't know. The movie's been out for forever, so.
Well, let's read the relevant part of the card.
Yeah. So basically, when she's played, you mark her one of your ultimate Modikas on the stage, underneath this face down, and then you choose the pictured level 0, the Modica level 0, in your waiting room and put it on any slot of the stage. Essentially, in the movie, that's exactly what. That's actually just. It's trying to emulate what happened in the movie, and it does it pretty successfully, I think. So basically, um,
She
in the
takes all the
movie,
power that Madoka was espousing and all of her burden, and basically
yeah,
reincarnates her, right?
reincarnates her in her own version of the universe as a normal high school girl, middle school girl. I
Middle
I,
school girl,
I think they're
probably.
middle
It's
school. I think they're
Japan.
in middle school. Yeah, but yeah, she takes ultimate. She takes Ultimatica, who is a god at that point. Hides her, like confuses her and then reincarnates her in her own vision in her new universe, new world. Haha. As a level 0.
It's pretty cool. There's a few examples of good flavor in Madoka, including like Saika's Wish and stuff, but we can't go over all of that. We'd be here all day. All right.
Cool card.
What's the next one? Yeah, it is a cool card. So this next card, contributed by multiple people actually. It's a really cool little bit. This character's name, I believe, is it's Toki, but I think she's an ibis. What she
Yes.
does is she her climax combo deals a damage to the opponent and then freezes one of the opponent's level 1 or lower characters in pain because her singing voice is so bad. But what happens is there's a level 0 in Komodo Friends called Kaban, which is a very, very strong card. Like most of the reason why Komodo Friends was strong is in part due to Kaban. When that card is in its ability is in play, all burn 1 effects turn off. So what happens here is that Toki's singing voice is terrible, but then Kaban comes and I think it's either she's able to deal with her singing voice or she's able to help her sing better or something like that, which makes it so she no longer burns anybody when she sings, which is a really cute bit of flavor there. It's really bad to have these two in the same deck because you kind of want to burn your opponent, but the flavor here is, I think it's definitely undeniable.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty cute. There's a couple other Kimono Friends ones that were submitted. We haven't forgotten about you. They're all great, but we need to we need to talk about as many different series as we can. So sorry guys, but thank you all. This next one, Tom, you like this one,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. I love this card. Prequenet is a MOBA gacha game. Um, and this card is literally you paying a cost to 10 roll. You you pay to sack the card to look at the top 10 cards of your deck, choose one of those choose a character that you find in the top 10 cards of your deck and then play it.
So
It's a 10
it's
roll.
pretty funny to because in when you roll a multi in a gacha game, the rates are usually really terrible. So typically in a multi, you're only going to have like one roll of any worth anyway. So I think that kind of is mirrored here. Also because you can't do more for balance reasons, like that would be pretty dumb. Also, this is kind of expensive because you shouldn't wail on gacha games; they'll ruin your life. Uh, all right, what do we have next?
We both have problems with gacha games, I think, unfortunately.
Yes.
Fairy tale cards.
So
This is you for
Fairy
sure.
Tale. Yeah. Look, the reason I have Fairy Tale is because I thought it'd be good to have the demo at like conventions, but I guess that at a certain point I went too deep, so I kind of know most of the Fairy Tale cards. So in the Fairy Tale universe, magic is kind of everywhere, and one of the top Fairy Tale mages at the beginning of the series is called Urza Scarlet. She's renowned as like a super powerful mage who has mastered the dress change ability to change outfits into ones that she owns. So here, this was one of the first instances of this effect being thematic. There were other cards like this. In Idolmaster, there was an Army and Mami who are twins. They kind of changed places to confuse you by changing back and forth from the waiting room. But here, you've got I think this is the Black Wing Armor Urza. When she attacks, if you have a certain climax combo, you do more damage. Not more damage. You have more power. And then when your opponent's turn comes around, she changes to a more defensive dress, the Flame Empress armor dress, which is harder for opponents to attack because it's like super hot or whatever. And this is represented by the card having more power on the opponent's turn and also having Encore. So she's kind of swapping her dress for the occasion, which is, again, one of the only instances of this that I've seen be flavorful. Another example is the recent ones in D-side
Oh yeah.
that we talked about, where characters change between their real world and their dream selves by swapping back and forth between memory. But basically, this is her dress changing, which is pretty cool for fans of the series. These cards are really bad by today's standards, unfortunately, but they're cool. Uh, so I'll take Aquarius. You can have Haruka. Aquarius, also from Fairy Tail, is one of the Summoner Mage's strongest celestial spirits. So Lucy is the fan service character and also the Summoner Mage who summons zodiac spirits. She rarely summons Aquarius for a simple reason, and what Aquarius reads is when you play her from hand to stage, deal 1 damage to all players. The reason that Lucy does not summon Aquarius much is because she floods the entire battlefield and knocks everybody out, which is represented by Aquarius hurting everybody. This card is actually extremely powerful because of its effect, but
And
Fairy
it's
Tail is not the
costless.
best.
Holy crap.
It is costless. You can play 4 of them if you want. I've seen it happen. I have done it before. We have a very similar card, Dojiko Haruka or Clumsy Girl Haruka. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. I mean, the flavor effect is the second one, obviously. When she rests, when she goes from stand to rest, she she does 1 damage to all players, which you know, she's a ditzy girl. She trips a lot, and when she trips, she hurts other people. Like
Herself and everyone around her,
herself and
right?
herself and everybody around her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool flavor. It's a pretty playable card. For reference, for gameplay reasons, this is strong because it happens when you attack. But I think flavorfully, it's more about tripping over.
Yes.
All right. Next card is a very iconic one to fans of the Marvel series, and this kind of extends to the one after that as well.
This
So,
is the sickest
Avengers.
card. This is one of the sickest cards in the set.
It really is. It really is. Avengers Assemble is uh if you don't have Captain America, you can't play this. Search your deck for up to 2 Marvel characters, put them to your hand, then choose up to 2 Marvel characters in your hand whose level is equal to or lower than your level, and put them in separate slots on the stage, then shuffle your deck. So basically, Cap is summoning characters. He's assembling the Avengers. Now, we know that Cap was not the one who started this initiative, but because he's one of the de facto leaders of the Avengers, him summoning others to the field is very much in character and flavor for him. Plus, I mean, if you've watched Endgame, you know how that goes. You know what that scene is like. You know, that really iconic bit where he summons Mjolnir at the end, catches it, and then he just kind of turns to the camera, Ricardo style, and says, "Assemble." And that's it's
Very
great.
famous line, I think, from what I've heard.
It
Like
is. It's
even in the comics, it's like a very famous
yeah.
Captain America line.
It's
So
one thing he yells when he's part of the Avengers as opposed to being in the Captain America comics. And while there are some flavor fails here that can happen, for example, uh, he can summon Thanos. That's not very flavorful at all. Typically, you will be summoning other copies of finishers like Thor and whatever. So,
he could also summon himself, which I'm sure is also not a
I mean, he's there for the party, right?
no. Like you, I mean, you could play multiple copies of like the same like
Look,
character,
man,
right?
do you know how many different Marvel universes there are? Have you seen Spider-Man No Way Home? Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not that
It's not.
far-fetched, I don't think. Plus, like in this very card, Avengers Assemble, there's actually 2 Captain Americas. Is that a spoiler? It's not a spoiler. No
Wait,
way
there are
it's a
two. Wait,
spoiler at
what?
this point. Because Falcon
Oh,
becomes Captain
sure.
America.
I mean, speaking of Falcon, though,
Speaking of Falcon, yeah, why is this one flavorful?
because it summons the card on its left.
So good. Like in the what was it? Was the Winter Soldier where
Winter
the first
Soldier.
running scene was? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's the meme where Captain Rogers is just he's a super soldier, so he just runs past Falcon on his left, and it gets very exasperating. But then in Endgame, of course, when all is lost, uh Cap's intercom buzzes to life, and then it's Falcon, and he says, "On your left," and then in comes Black Panther, in comes Falcon, Spider-Man. All of it happens, and this is just a little nod to that. There is absolutely no reason it had to be on the left because you can move the character afterwards anyway. But this is obviously a sick flavor nod. And look, we know there are heaps of sick Marvel ones. There's not Captain, there's Doctor Strange and his Rings of Ragador and all of that. Um, there's Thanos and his Infinity Stones. There's so many different ones. We can't talk about all of them. I'm sorry, but these two were some of the coolest ones, please, if this inspired you to go look at the set, then do it. It's a sick set. Uh, Great,
More
Hololive.
Hololive.
It's yes. So why is Kanata gaining 50 soul flavorful?
Because she has a vice grip. The meme is that I don't know what the lore is actually behind this one. But
Um,
the joke is that she's a gorilla, I guess, with
Actually,
a
well, for the record, male grip strength average is about 50. Uh, so I guess that makes her stronger than average. I guess. Anyway, her grip strength is 50 kilograms, and that's why the number 50 is there.
Oh, it's
And
cuz she measured it.
yeah, I
She
mean,
measured it on
haven't you seen?
stream.
Oh, I see. She measured it on
I have
stream.
not.
Okay.
She measured it in like what did she measure?
I mean, you can measure it just by having one of those handheld grip things, right?
She literally. Yeah, so her grip strength is approximately 50 kilograms.
There you go.
Literally,
Th-
it's like stream content. Holy crap. Okay.
yeah, there are a few other cards like this. There's one in Lucky Star, for example, but I mean, this one came up and was one of the easiest to talk about. And hey, people like Hololive, so why not? What's after this?
Another Hololive.
Uh, who is this again? What's her name? Qua, is that
Minato
it?
Aqua.
Okay.
It's her weight.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what the flavor is.
The power 4450 is short. It's referring
Oh, is that her
to
weight?
her supposed weight, which was basically leaked because they she played Ring Fit, and the Ring Fit like displays your weight at some point, and she did not hide it
That's
properly,
so
and
stupid.
people like, you know, obviously people are going to remember. The internet always remembers these things. So her weight is apparently 44.5 kilograms, which is why this
Ooh,
card has 4450 power.
sure. All right. The next cards are these are of a character from the Cinderella Girls franchise. This is Nana Abe, and one of her things, one of her shticks, is that she is always 17 years old. So the first thing about this is that her serial number is 17,
In both
even
sets,
though
there are two Cinderella Girl sets. Both the Nana Abe cards here are number 17, despite her being a red card.
yes, and even though she is a red card, which is normally numbered like 50 to 75 on average, she she's she's number 17. Just deal with it. As for the other card, obviously it is 3017 as her power because she's always 17. This is very unusual, but it does mean she beats 3000 power characters and loses to 3500 power characters, which is a very unique position to be in. But basically, this is just playing on the number 17. And yes, I know there's plenty of other idol related ones in Cinderella Girls. I know there's a bunch in Bang Dream, the Fever thing. There's bunches in Miku as well. We can't cover all of them, unfortunately. Then, but we might get to it in the future episode. Who knows? Okay, this next one. This one is a doozy, but it's also super sick, in my opinion. Now, this is all secondhand information because I have not seen the Godzilla film this is about. But basically, Godzilla turns into Mecha Godzilla with the nanometal, um, with nanometal. Basically, it's like Yu-Gi-Oh! Metal Morph, that sort of thing. The the Mechagodzilla character is it gets Godzilla and Nanometal as markers. So I'll just read it. If you are level 3 or higher, you can choose a specific Mechagodzilla among cards under this, and then you can turn that into Mechagodzilla. Then you have another character, one of the doctors who developed the nanometal, and the nanometal is like this sentient living metal that consumes other organic life to grow. The doctor sacrifices himself to the nanometal in order to grow and advanced science, and that's exactly what the Doctor character does as well. And basically, from what I've been told, the Godzilla set is flush with flavor. There's heaps of it. I know the Godzilla set also has some mechas and stuff in it as well. And I mean, it's Godzilla, man. Like Godzilla, Mecha Godzilla, all these really sick tropes, and they've been represented really well in Weiss as this kind of creeping, corroding nanometal virus, the nanomachines that created Mechagodzilla, and that's really sick. A lot of people don't even know there's a Godzilla set. Like it's a Japanese-only set. It is like for a movie that was reportedly not very good, but the set, just like Gurren Lagann, just like other sets like No Game No Life, Steins Gate, despite not being super good sets, is sick and full of flavor. So yeah, that's cool. All right,
Agreed.
that's a lot of cards on the
You know it's
screen. What is
not.
this supposed?
You know it's not cool. And the same.
Oh, did you watch it while it was airing?
No, I did not
I
have
did.
the mispleasure of experiencing that.
I unfortunately did. It's what's funny? There's actually more versions of Endless Eight, the foil versions. You don't need to go get it. So the story plot of this is that in the Suzumiya Haruhi anime, the melancholy of Suzumiya Haruhi, we've got this girl who has godlike power, and one of her powers is to basically grant wishes to some degree, but she's not conscious of it. So one of the things she does is she attracts weird occurrences. One of these occurrences is a time loop. And in the second season of the honestly pretty I'm not saying season one is bad. I'm not saying the show Shitsu movie is bad. I'm saying season two is bad because of Endless Eight. In season two, there is an 8 episode span which literally covers the same events 8 times to represent a time loop. Endless Eight, as the title implies, is a event that has 8 different variations, all shown on screen, all depicting things that happen during that time loop. And look, the actual effect is not particularly flavorful in my opinion. Eventually, they break out, and it's revealed that they've gone through way more iterations than 8. It's like tens of thousands of loops or something, I believe. And at that point, they break out with the help of stuff happening, and it moves on to much better arcs in the Haruhi series. But basically, there being 8 different ones that you can play. You can play 8 copies of the card in your deck, and there being build around cards for this make Endless Eight into a glorious, glorious me. One more flavorful thing about Endless Eight. Playing the Endless Eight deck is almost as tedious and terrible as watching the Endless
Ah,
Eight anime. I
ah.
had to say it. Had to say it. So, to give you a bit of well,
Oh, sure.
it's whatever.
You can, we can
I
we
do.
can keep talking about the same.
I don't really want to talk about. Okay, so the Endless Eight cards. There is a promo printed which has a very efficient finishing effect. It just reads, "Do a good finishing effect," and the cost is to put 2 copies of Endless Eight. Wait, no, the cost is to put all 8 copies of Endless Eight from your memory into your waiting room. So if you manage to get all 8 copies of Endless Eight in, you basically kill your opponent. It's like burn one some large number of times.
It's a power
The
up set?
problem is, sorry, the power up set. Yeah, it was a promo in the
Okay.
power up set. So the reason why this is a stupid, terrible meme is because in the process of gaining the stock and maintaining the hand needed to use this effect, you will have killed your opponent before you get 8 copies of Endless Eight into memory. So in reality, you are never actually getting Endless Eight off. You are just subjecting yourself to a terrible deck with 8 copies of a costed event that just does nothing except act as a counter. It's just a really bad deck. Just don't play it. Don't watch Endless Eight. Just watch the first episode, skip the next 6 or 7 or whatever it is, and then keep watching. I think the bit after is like Rhapsody of the Bamboo Leaf Cutter. That is way, way better. Incomparable.
Put one. What is this? Let's see. Choose up to 2. Oh, put 8 of them from memory into your waiting room. Oh, I see. You burn 1 8 times.
Yes. it is basically a finisher. You know what's stupid? The one way you can get MSA to work is by sacrificing attacks. So, like, if you manage to get all 8 in, and your opponent's at, like, 2, 3, they're not gonna die anyway. So, like, it's terrible no matter what you do. It's so bad. And so is the MSA part of the Haruhi anime. Just don't. Don't, for the love of God. Let's go on to a better KyoAni anime. Have you seen Clannad?
Nope. I've
Okay.
seen.
Oh, well, look.
I do know what I do know what they do to Sunohara. I know like I
Alright.
vaguely know the interactions involved here. Yeah.
Alright. So I will talk about it. There's a card called Sunohara Combo, which reads, choose a card called Sunohara Yohei in your clock and put it in the waiting room. If you have a character with Tomoya in name, choose a Yohei Sunohara in your waiting room and put it in your stock. So the joke here is this character on screen, Sunohara Yohei, is the best friend of the main character, Okazaki Tomoya. And he is like so Sunohara Yohei is a meme character. He's like the uh comedy relief, and there's a character who her name is Tomoyo, and she is a monstrously strong schoolgirl, used to be a delinquent or whatever, and she takes offense to Sunohara Yohei being kind of an idiot. And it is a running gag that she kicks the shit out of him every time he says something stupid. There is one scene where she kicks the shit out of him, and the main character, Okazaki Tomoya, is prompted to respond. You can either choose to not do anything, or you can choose to knock him back. At which point, he will be hit back and then beat up again. And that's what's being represented by the Sunohara Yohei thing. He gets he gets the crap kicked out of him, and if you've got Tomoya, then he continues the combo and bounces him back, and then Tomoya beats the shit out of him again. This is reflected in gameplay as healing because the card has to be good, right? But basically, Sunohara is going to the waiting room, and then he's going to stock. He's going places he doesn't want to go. The other card that's part of this is a Kyo, who is another character, another rival for Tomoya's affection, who she helps with the combo in one scene when Tomoyo kicks the crap out of Sunohara. Kyo punches him back, and the combo continues. So this is just a really flavorful way to print a cheap, undercosted, like it's a very cheap heal event, um, and was playable in the deck that it was in. It was the best card in the deck, really. The rest of the deck was terrible.
It was playable.
Yes, it was.
Isn't
Very
the
briefly.
isn't the Sunohara just bad though?
Giving it so the Sunohara has the ability to give a card sports trait, and there is a level 3 in Clannad which clock kicks a sports trait. So
Uh
is able
uh
yeah.
oh.
So the reason that it's used is because you give your opponent's characters a certain trait, and then Tomoyo cards interact with that.
Wow, pay 5 on play.
Yes, it's base 7 to clock.
Damn. We're
That was the
that is
finisher.
peak flavor. Oh my god, that's
Just
so
remember at this point in time, finishers were
Oh.
not good. They were super overcosted. Typically, you only do that to cards you want to remove. You just play Tomoyo as a vanilla heal.
Oh man, I
But yeah,
miss Old Weiss. Or I don't miss Old Weiss because I never played Old Weiss, but like this era
it
of
was
Weiss
whack, man. It
where
was whack.
they're like they're clearly selling out for flavor as like a, for fun casual game. Where did it all go wrong, man?
Uh,
Now I'm
well,
dealing with Buzz and Woody out here in a few months, and
hey man, they've still got some nice flavor. Why don't you talk about the darkness that you've got next?
yeah, sure. This is a more recent. This is from the most recent Konosuba set. It's a 2/2 darkness. Her distinctive flavor. The distinctive feature of this card is that she has no soul, which is, as any Konosuba fan will know, she is
It's darkness.
she's
So
she can't attack. She's really
yeah,
bad at
yes.
attacking. Every time she attacks, it
Soul
just doesn't work out.
it just does nothing. Yeah. So Soul is of course the offensive presence of every character in the game. And if Darkness has no soul, she cannot deal damage to the opposing player, which means she has no offensive presence, but she is very oversized. She's a 2/2 12K with no drawbacks aside from the soul. So she's all defense and no offense. It's a little bit of a flavor fail because like she can still kill opposing characters. She just does no damage to the opposing player, which is ultimately what matters. So in that sense, she is all defense and no
Also, no
offense.
soul trigger.
Hmm.
Pays a lot for that 12k power. Next one
Yes.
is also a Konosuba card, God Blow. Um, basically, this card does nothing.
Because
And
she's
you know,
useless.
because God Blow in the show does nothing. Aqua is useless. But basically, you give one of the characters 50 soul, which means when they attack, it's not going to do any damage because it's always going to cancel. I'm sure there are some sick standard decks that you can make around this card, but and also the character you gave 50 soul to can't side attack, and they can't reverse characters, and when they cancel damage, you can draw up to 3 and then discard 2. Cool, I guess.
Yeah. It's just spinning your wheels. She's not doing anything. God Blow is supposed to be like a purifying punch effect, but Aqua is useless, so she just doesn't do anything. This is a not a particularly good event. Let's just put it that way.
The draw 3, ditch 3, essentially.
Yes.
Also sacrificing one of your attacks for return. Also can't kill one of your opponent's characters. Okay, that's a really bad card. Oh my god.
Yeah, it is.
I forgot that you couldn't. Man, I just forgot that the can't reverse opponent's character. I
Yeah.
forgot I can't reverse a character. God, that's so bad. All right. You want to hand? You want
Yeah,
to take
buddy.
this one?
Yeah, I'll take Megaman. So, rounding out the trio of problematic adventurers, we've got Megamin. Now, Megamin has a lot of different cards we could have used. A lot. Like, you have no idea how many Megumin cards we could have talked about for this. We're going to go with the tried and true, the card literally named Megumin. At the start of your attack phase, if you have Explosion Magic in the Climax zone, and this is in the front row, you may pay cost. If you do, deal 4 damage to your opponent, put the opposing character level 3 or lower in clock, and then rest this. So this is, it's flavorful because Megumin is this little mage who has access to one of the strongest offensive abilities in the world of Konosuba, Explosion Magic. It just goes boom, destroys whatever it is it touches, really powerful. But she's a low-level mage who, like, did not do any of the basics, and as a result, she has, like, no mana pool, she's no supporting abilities. This is like if you took a super high-level Diablo ability, um, and did not do anything below it, basically. And as a result, whenever she uses explosion magic, she's drained of mana and cannot move. That's what is represented by her resting herself. And then the enormous explosive power is represented by 4 damage and clock kicking the opponent who dies because they just had a nuke detonated on them. And yeah, she's got heaps of exploding large damage abilities. Often, like, comically large amounts of damage are being dealt. But this one I think is best because it also represents her knocking herself out. All
One
right, let's
second.
finish up with a couple.
I have to.
What
There's more. There's a card I
what you
forgot.
got?
It's
Oh
this
yes,
Union.
yes. So this is a we kind of talked a little bit about both of Union's little abilities here.
This is so
The first,
perfect.
it is right. So Union is a character in the show who is much maligned because she like has no friends. That's like a supremely defining trait of her. One of her only like close relationships is with Megumi, and like they're actually friends. That's what they actually are. But the joke is that she has no friends, which is why if you have no other characters, she gains 2k power. She's a loner. But then she can also bond to Megumin because Megumin is like the only friend she has. She goes out of her way to go and try and find and mess with Megumin. It's one of those bond effects that we talked about at the very beginning. So again, Konosuba was pretty flavorful set for its time, also pretty strong for its time, but most of the flavorful cards were not particularly playable, unfortunately. There are heaps of them, we know about them. All right, let's finish up this episode with some Nasuverse characters. Who are these lovely looking folks?
They both are wielders of the eyes of death perception. Aha, 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 aha.
To give a little bit of context, the Mystic Eyes of Death Perception, which is about as literal as you can possibly get. They are the ability to see the death of things, and then when the death of things is cut or activated, causes death to happen. So the characters on screen, both of whom are named Shiki. The boy is named Shiki Tono. The girl, or the well, she's biologically a girl. The girl is named Shiki Ryogi. They're from different series, but they both share the Mystic Eyes of Death perception. So Shiki Tono, the boy, his ability is when this attacks, if you have 17 cuts in the climax zone, you may pay cost. If you do, this gains 3,000 power for the turn, and the opponent cannot use Encore for the turn. So true death is it occurs. Whatever he kills dies, and he also gets a bunch of power while doing so. There is no reviving from this. Encore does not happen. Now, this is slightly not flavorful because the scene depicted in 17 Cuts is where he attacks a character called Arcued Brunstead, who is like a god vampire type thing. And the very next day after this climax scene happens, Arcued revives. So she actually does revive, meaning this did not kill her at all. However, she came perilously close to death because reasons, and that kind of gives an idea of how strong Shiki's murder ability is. Shiki Rogi, however, has a slightly stronger alternative version of the Mystic Eyes, where she sees the death of not just living things, but also everything. I know Tono does this as well, but for the most part, he um, so there's lots of reasons for it, but basically Shiki Tono, whenever he sees these lines, his brain goes to the point where it's about to explode. Shiki
Too
Ryogi does
much
not because
information.
yes, Shiki Ryogi does not because of various reasons. As a result, she is able to use her Mystic Eyes a lot more effectively, and she can kill like whatever she wants if she so desires. And that is embodied in the pay for ditch card from hand. When this attacks you and pay cost, which is the pay for ditch one. If you do, kill all of your opponent's level 1 or lower front row characters. If this was printed today, this would just kill all of your opponent's characters, I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't think it would do wouldn't have caveats, because this card is already pretty weak. Uh, but the idea remains that the Mystic Eyes of Death Perception just kill whatever is involved with the thing. That is a lot of glare. Apparently the scan of Shiki Ryogi that Tom found was not very good, so I had to go and scan my copy, but there was too much glare, so it looks kind of off. Anyway, so those are the Mystic Eyes of Death Perception. Very iconic term in the Nasuverse, the Fate, Tsukihime, Kara no Kyokai universe. And yeah, look, we'll call it there for now, I think, because we've gone over a heap of flavorful cards, and there are more. There are so many more. Like the number that was
There
given to
are.
us. Oh God, we
I
have
don't think we even included like half of the cards that were
not
suggested,
even,
and
not even, and
and then we
yeah,
kept coming up with more as we like were talking about it in prep. So
we
like,
had to stop. We had to stop. Like there are
oh
so many
man,
examples. I could list them here, but look, we could do another episode on this at some time. There is so much we haven't talked about. And if you guys want to leave your favorite examples of flavor in the comments on YouTube or ping one of us on the various socials about it, then we will keep track of that. We will maybe include them in the next show. But again, we can't include everything. Why is too much good flavor? Just way too much. We can't talk about everything. But look, we might call it there. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening along to this really cool dive into one of the most flavorful card games on the market, Weiss Schwartz. If you enjoyed this, then please look at your sets and see what sort of flavor you might have missed. They often hide in the really underappreciated, unplayable cards. And let us know what your favorites are. Um, if you're listening on Spotify, thanks. We'll continue putting episodes up on there. If it's on YouTube, then great. If you want to throw us the usual interaction stuff, then by all means. We haven't monetized or anything, but I think that I like some of the content we're doing, and if it helps that reach more people, then I'm all for it. Anyway, I probably need to head off fairly soon as well. Have you got anything else you want to add?
No, except I echo the sentiment that it would be nice to continue doing this in the future because I think it's really cool content that really
Yeah.
connects a lot of players, a lot of people in the community, whether you're serious about the game or just started, anywhere in between. We can all appreciate a little bit of flavor because it's entertaining and cool. Uh, especially especially when the flavor card is good, I guess. Which doesn't happen that often, but
I think
uh,
even collectors can get into the idea because, like, if you're a
yeah.
collector and you really like the
Mhm.
property, then seeing how it's
Mhm.
reflected in the game itself, even if you don't play, can be really cool.
Mhm.
So,
It adds meaning
look, if you
to
like, let us know.
whatever you collect.
Mm,
I think it's cool.
it is really
Um,
cool. So, look, as always, thank you for coming along for the ride to everybody. Thank you to you as well, Tom. Let us know how you feel. Let us know your favorite flavor cards, and we will talk to you in the next episode.
yeah. See you guys next time.